Welcome to another Liberty Dad podcast episode. Sunday nights are my opportunity to talk about what's happening in the Libertarian Party across the US. This series is dedicated to discussing what state and local affiliates are up to. The goal is to spread the word about the hard work that's happening in the Libertarian Party and give other affiliates ideas. I mean, come on, we can't all think of everything, right? Joining me is my co host, Susan Hogarth. And tonight, we're going to bring on another guest. We had a guest last week. We will have another guest tonight, and we're going to talk about a couple of things. So let's get Susan in here and start the show.
Hey, good
Susan, how
evening.
are you?
Good. I hope you've had a good week.
Oh, it's
Are y-
been busy.
are you having post Disney letdown
No.
or
But
relief?
no, so what's funny, and for people that may not be aware, this last weekend I went on a vacation with my family to Disney World. I always get them confused. I went to Disney World down in Orlando and took my son there. It's first time going. I haven't been there since, I don't know, like I was 4, like maybe his age. And it was fun, no lie. But I'm glad to be back because I feel like taking a vacation is sometimes its own level of stress.
That's my husband would totally agree with that.
So, and then, and I don't want to stir up any marital trouble here, but my wife tends to be more of the planner, and I'm more like, we'll get to it when we get to it. So, for instance, we coordinated this with a real estate event that she needed to go to, and so one of the days she was not with us, and so it was just my son and I. And so I told her, I said, we got into the park, we went to Animal Kingdom, and we I was like, "All right, he likes dinosaurs. We're going to the whatever it's called, Dinosaurium, Dino Land, whatever." And I said, I walked straight there and just basically ignored everything else along the way until we got there. Like that was my idea of like getting around. And we actually enjoyed quite a bit of the park, but that's just kind of how I operate. I'm like totally tunnel vision. So but all right, so we're going to talk about a couple things tonight. We have a guest tonight. We'll get to her in just a moment. So, Susan, do you have anything that you brought to the table to discuss?
Um, no, I'll personally be at the South Carolina Libertarian Party convention November 11th.
Okay.
Um, and I again personally will be at the North Carolina State Fair in mid-October, tabling for our state party a
Okay.
couple of days. And I feel like, oh, there's a crab feast for the LP of Maryland. I don't know if they're sold out or not, but if you like crabs, I think it is, and you should, and you're in the area. It's up near Delaware on the outer, I almost said Outer Banks, on the eastern shore. Um, and it is, sorry, I'm trying to look at my calendar. I believe, yeah, it's the 30th, so just 2 weeks. Um, and I think that's an entirely social event.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, right now, I don't have anything that I'm going to be specifically at except for one thing, which I do want to mention tonight. So we've the Libertarian Party of Duval County, for which I'm the chair. We have an event coming up on October 21st. So let me put that up on the screen because this one is getting a little bit of momentum. And I think it's kind of exciting. So there we are. We're calling it the
Oh, nice.
very elaborate 2024 Libertarian presidential candidates. So we're not, maybe we should work on some names, but that's okay. But what we've got going on is we've invited candidates to come out. Now, I would like to stop for a moment and just let people know that we have 6 candidates currently coming. Right now, there's only 4 listed on this screen. That will be changing. That that word came out today, literally within the last couple of hours. So we have On the upper left here on the right side of the screen, we've got Mike Termott. Then next to him, we've got Lars Mapstead. Below to the left, we've got Chase Oliver. And then we also have Joshua Smith to the right. Those four, we had been in communication with them already for a couple of weeks. And we said, hey, we'd like to, host an event. And they said, yep, we will totally come out. Word started getting out. We put out this flyer, and then shortly after that, we put out the flyer, we learned that somebody named Michael Rechtenwald has filed and apparently is actually campaigning and running. So he is expected to come out now. I think he tweeted and said that he would be here. And then we have another person, which I'm not actually familiar with this person exactly. So apologies if you're watching. Keenan Dunham, they will
Hmm.
be well, that was actually within the last hour, I believe. We got word that they would be attending, and I believe they have family actually in the vicinity, so that's kinda cool. So we will
So
have all of those.
this is a completely in-person event?
This is an in-person event. We will be live streaming it, and we will have everything mic'd. We've actually had some questions. People were like, "So, you're gonna do some video and you're gonna have some audio and, not some cheesy, like whatever where you could barely hear them." And we're like, "Nope. We are putting some money into this event. We will be acquiring some audio equipment that we don't particularly have that we believe is going to be necessary for the event. It will be mic'd. The mics will be hooked up to audio equipment that will be pumped into the live stream. So the expectation for everybody that cannot make it, maybe if you're from Alaska or Oregon or somewhere, far, far away, you will be able to watch the live stream and hear them, well enough. So we should be in good shape there. Um,
Yeah, it's really good to see the candidates together. I think there was something in California a couple of months ago, but I think it's just sort of ramping up now.
mhm.
Um, and I'm
It's
looking forward to more of these matches, maybe
it's
some head-to-head debates.
it's really exciting for us because we are a local affiliate. We are a county affiliate. And I feel like right now we are getting some of the momentum here with the presidential candidates on the level of a state party. I mean, we have 6 people that have said they will be here on October 21st. And we've got down there, you can see kind of in the middle, down to the bottom. Our host is going to be Robert Vinson. I believe he is. I'm working with other people, so when I say I believe, I'm kind of couching my words to make sure that what was communicated to me, I actually properly understood. So bear with me, folks. But I believe he's going to do a little bit of a warm up, maybe some light comedy to kind of get you know, the the enjoyment flowing there. And before the event, we're actually going to have the gentleman below Robert Vinson is Dr. Ricardo Mijas. He actually is our secretary for the affiliate, and he actually is an economist. And he will be giving a small presentation about a half an hour before the event. So, folks, if you happen to be in town, we definitely encourage you to come to Dr. Mijas's event or talk. But if you're running behind because of whatever, the kids just won't get their socks on, whatever the case may be, please do come anyway. It's going to be, we're expecting to have a good time, and we're going to try something a little unique because normally what you see is either a debate or you see some sort of forum, right? Like a town hall type thing. And we were like, well, what can we do as an affiliate to kind of break it up a little bit and just do something different? And libertarians would just love to have some time on the stage with the Republicans and the Democrats. And unfortunately, they do a really good job of making sure that we don't. So what we're going to do is starting around October, early October, maybe about a week into October, we are going to be on the lookout for audio/video clips of the Republican and Democratic candidates, and we're gonna take a bunch of clips, like a 1 minute clip, not a really long one, but like a 1 minute clip, and we are going to play them. And so what we'll do is we'll offer the candidates. We'll say, all right, for instance, we'll say, all right, Lars Mapstead, pick a number between 1 and 10. He might say 7. So we'll go, okay, roll clip 7. Clip 7 will be one of the actual Republican or Democratic candidates saying something. And then we're going to say, all right, here's your chance to respond to what they just said. Because what we want to do is we want to find out how the candidates would respond to the duopoly. Because I feel like what ends up happening is that the candidates always respond to either questions of the crowd, which tend to be more libertarian in nature, or questions, from each other, right? Like, hey, no, I disagree with that, or what have you. So what we want to do is we want to say, you know
Or
what?
more often, I agree with that, but I'm going to spend 5 minutes talking about
Right.
exactly how minusculely I disagree when I'm agreeing. Yeah.
Right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch it up and we're gonna kind of pretend, like that we're on the stage and we're gonna say, all right, this person just said this. How would you respond? Right. And like this is your opportunity. And because we're streaming this, you'll be able to clip it and you'll be able to run with that with your, whatever your social media, however you're running your social media campaign. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to break it up a little bit, just be a little different. Because we're like, they're going to go to the state parties and there's going to be debates there. So let the state parties do that thing. I think that's good. But since we're doing something a little unique here, out of the ordinary, as a county affiliate, having 6 candidates come in, we wanted to try to spice it up and just see what we can come up with. So that's what we're going to be doing. And folks, again, if anybody is just now watching, I do want to point out that this is an old flyer and I did not have time to update it with the other 2 candidates that have confirmed that they will be here. They confirmed a little bit later than the first 4 did. So we're going to have, I think he's Dr. Michael Rechtenwald, and then we're also going to have Keenan Dunham. So both of those candidates have agreed to come out on October 21st. So look forward to that. Mark your calendars. If you're anywhere within driving distance, definitely come out. It's going to be an amazing time. The candidates will have an opportunity to set up tables. They'll be able to talk to people. You'll be able to get pictures with your favorite candidate or your favorite chair of an affiliate. Just throwing that out there. I'm saying.
Who will
So
be moderating?
so the Robert Vinson, he is going to be our MC for the evening. So
Got
there's
it.
not really going to be a whole lot of moderating per se because the candidates aren't really going to be doing a back and forth. Like on the stream. I mean, it might happen. I mean, we're going to try to keep it focused on, hey, what would you say to the duopoly if you had a chance, and not just to the duopoly, but to what they just said, right? And we're going to try to
Gotcha.
find very relatively recent comments. So we're not going to try to dig up something from like, you know, really politically old stuff like, 2 months ago. We want it to be relatively fresh.
Gotcha.
So
That sounds
that's
fun.
what we got, folks. And let's go back to this. There we are. All right. So that concludes that. Now, people may remember 2 episodes ago, so not last weekend, but the weekend before, we talked about the Libertarian Party of Georgia doing a pub crawl. Well, turns out word gets around. And one of the viewers sent word to, I think, somebody in the Libertarian Party of Georgia, and then the Libertarian Party of Georgia reached out to me and said, "Hey, thanks for highlighting our event," which is exactly what this show is all about. And they said, "We'd love to come on and talk more about this." And I'll even point out, we actually got a couple of interesting comments, or at least one comment, on that particular event where people were going into a little bit more in depth about the whole issue because it is a pub crawl. So there's alcohol. And we know that we have a lot of fellow libertarians who, for one reason or another, do not drink. And so there was some mention of that. But tonight we're going to bring on Elizabeth Melton, and she is going to go and discuss a little bit more into detail, and we'll be able to ask her some questions more about what this about this event. Remember, this event coincided with this idea of Banish Big Brother. So let's go ahead and bring Elizabeth Melton on, and she can discuss. Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very well. All right, let's
Good to
get that.
have you.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
And I'm going to try and share. Give me a second. There it is. All right. So Banish Big Brother. So let's start at the beginning. You are who in the Libertarian Party of Georgia?
I am the executive director of the Libertarian Party of Georgia, and I'm also the chair of my local affiliate, which is the Libertarian Party of the Chattahoochee Valley.
Gotcha. Awesome. And your connection to this event is like, are you organizing it, or is it just, part of your regular duties, or your brainchild? Like let's get
Well,
in and talk about it.
well, if I could start at the beginning of how this
Absolutely.
whole idea came about. Um, so my local affiliate, we decided that we were going to do a voter guide in 2022, and this was for our local candidates who were running. And one of our major concerns was the 2,000 surveillance cameras that our city had purchased. And so when we interviewed the different candidates, that was our first question. How do you feel about these 2,000 cameras that are being put in place? And do
Mhm.
you see any problems at all with this kind of surveillance? Well, one of the people that we interviewed happened to be an incumbent. And so, knowing our concerns about this issue, she invited me to a smart city meeting,
Mhm.
which was an implementation meeting of the city. It wasn't a public meeting at all. And when I saw some of the things that were going on, I was kind of appalled, honestly. And I got to digging into it a little bit further and realized that not a lot of people are really aware of what's going on. And even some of the politicians that are voting for this are not aware of what's going on. And
Surprise,
that,
surprise, right?
yeah, that started our educational efforts. So we did an online virtual event and a presentation. And then we kind of discovered that a lot of people, they're concerned about it, but then they're like, okay, well, what can I do?
Mhm.
Yeah, I find this appalling, but what can I do about it? And so that got us to thinking, okay, we have a structure in place here. We
Mhm.
have the Libertarian Party, and these are the kinds of things that we need to be doing. So we started putting together what we call a toolkit that people can go on to this landing page. They can download this toolkit, and it gives them education about
Mhm.
what's going on, the indications that of how this is a threat to our
Mhm.
civil liberties, and just step by step, these are some things that you can do.
So
So,
can I stop you for just a second? Because you mentioned you
yeah.
went to a meeting and you heard some things that just kind of alarmed you. What kind of things did you hear?
Well, I think that we're all aware that there are cameras everywhere.
Mhm.
But I didn't realize that they had sensors that were taking my temperature when I walked down the sidewalk,
Oh.
and that these sensors also measure temperature in the aggregate. So, like, for example, they specifically pointed out in the data where there was a spike in the data back in 2021, and that was when there was a protest, a George Floyd protest. So basically, it was indicating there's a crowd of people gathering. Maybe you need to send in police or something
Hmm.
of that nature. So there, I didn't realize that they were the extent that they were using facial recognition and identifying people. I didn't realize that the way that they databased people, and basically that when your license plate is captured, it's capturing your travels all over town,
Mhm.
and it is databasing that. There's a permanent record of every place that you've been, everywhere that you've gone, and every person that you've spoken to.
Wow. That's That's pretty intense. And let me interject something here real quick. So I live in a neighborhood that does not have an HOA. We have a civic association. It's a little different. It is it's voluntary, um, and it kind of ties into that camera. So we have a judge that lives in the neighborhood, and somebody went and shot at the judge. This was years and years ago. And when I moved in, I learned that some of the people had suggested that maybe our entrance should have cameras, and the cameras would be fed And since we don't have like a particular like centralized building for like the civic association, that somebody's personal home would have the information stored on their computer. And luckily for me, um, the one of my neighbors is a pretty libertarian kind of guy, and he made all kind of hell about that. And then, when I came in, I was like, well, good for you, because that's a terrible idea. So, folks, I just want to point out, even though you may think, oh, well, it's just the city doing it, you might want to check your HOAs and your civic associations, because I can tell you at least one civic association that has bounced around that same idea that would help feed information as to where you're going, when you're going, so on and so forth.
Yeah, the whole concept of public and private is very mixed up here because, for example, Albany, Georgia, Cobb County, Georgia,
Mhm.
several of these cities now are encouraging people to sign up their private surveillance system to the public surveillance system. So if it
Mhm.
is cloud based, sometimes they have relationships with the government, even if you as an individual don't give them permission. So, like the
Right.
Ring doorbells, there are there are cities all over the country that have a relationship with Amazon where they can access any of the cloud information for Ring doorbells. And so, if you think about the number of people that have these, they're basically every section of every street could be monitored
Right.
by the
Well,
government.
let me break in here really quick. I I don't want to sound ageist, but I feel like a lot of younger people don't have the same expectation of privacy, and so are just basically okay with a lot of surveillance. Um, I've seen that, with the whole COVID thing, and um, I don't know if that's what you're finding as well, but
Yeah, I do find it very alarming the number of people who are okay with this. And I think that helping to try to foster a mindset of privacy is part of our work, honestly.
Right.
Um, and then the whole argument that, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to hide. They don't seem to understand the potential repercussions of a lot of this. And one of the things is that the different technologies are owned by a variety of different corporations.
Mhm.
And so when they get this data, it's alarming how little oversight and regulation that there is over what they can do with this. It's all
Right.
very fuzzy and up in the air. So I see the potential for i- imagine they're capturing every time you drive up to the liquor store. Well, is that going to impact your uh, auto insurance rates?
Right.
Are they measuring the number of times you go to the Dunkin' Donuts? Is that going to impact your health insurance
God,
rates?
no.
And so we just don't know because there is the potential there for them to sell this data in a lot of cases. And so people need to understand that their data is very valuable. There's a
Mhm.
reason why when Dixie tells you, okay, if you use our app and let us track what you buy, we'll give you discounts because that's valuable data. But
Right.
when you do that, you're consenting to let your data be used. If you use Facebook, for example, they're selling your data, but you're consenting to that. When you're just out walking around in public and moving from place to place as a private citizen, you're not consenting to being monitored like that and having that data go. You don't even know where it's going or how it's
Right.
going to be used.
Right. And let me say one more thing, and then we'll get back to talking about the pub crawl and the Banished Big Brother event. But people may remember there was a lawyer that gave a talk. It's a very popular talk. It's called "Don't Talk to the Police." This guy speaks very, very fast. It's about an hour long, and he basically is in a classroom. And I think he's a law professor, and I think he's talking to new law students. I think that's what's going on. But he's basically going through these different scenarios, and he's like, "This is why you don't want to talk to the police." And he's like, he's like, "It's not really that the police are big bad guys per se." He said the police are there to try to find evidence against you. And he starts going through all these different scenarios where if you're more cooperative and you just want to be a respectable person who is being helpful and you give out information, that information can be used against you later. And the same holds true for all of this information. Like this is info. If you're if the police bring you in and they say, "What were you doing last night?" The proper answer would be, "I need to speak to my lawyer," right? But if there's all these cameras everywhere, well, they don't have to ask you. And then they can start creating a narrative because, again, they're trying to solve a crime. If they suspect it's you, then they're trying to solve the crime with you being the guilty person, right? Like they're not like, "Oh, where were you last night? Oh, you were at home. Cool. All right. Well, have a nice day." It's not how it goes, right? They're looking to try to figure out who did it. And so this information is basically the same information that we would normally say, "I want to talk to my lawyer first," except for now, talking to your lawyer, I don't want to say it becomes less valuable, but they have more valuable information. This is information that they would have tried to interrogate out of you or try to, question out of you. And now they're getting it basically for free. But anyway.
Yeah, well, there's a difference between active and passive surveillance.
Mhm.
So, active surveillance, you were suspected of a crime and they follow you around and they watch what you do to see if you do anything that implicates you in a
Mhm.
crime. And passive surveillance is when they just film you and watch you and monitor you all the time just in case you do something wrong.
Right.
And we can, if you look at it and you think of what a free society means, passive surveillance has no place in a free society.
Right.
This has a chilling effect on people. Then you're sitting there, if you know that you're being watched every second and you start questioning everything you do, even if what kind of clothing you wear, or maybe I shouldn't say this, or maybe I shouldn't talk to that person, simply because of how it might be perceived rather
Mhm.
than whether or not you're actually doing something wrong.
Let me devil's advocate this for a second. Um, should we not have cops doing regular patrols on the streets and looking at people? I mean, should in terms of passive surveillance, isn't that what we want cops to do? If we want them to do anything, um,
Well, so say for example, you are in a public park and someone sees you in a public park and they take a picture of you. Well, they're free to do that because if you're in public, you have no expectation of privacy.
right.
However, if that person takes a picture of you at a public park and then follows you to the next place that you go, and the next place that you go, and the next place that you go, personally identifies you and keeps a record of every place that you've been, every person you've talked to, that is stalking. And stalking technically is illegal. So what we have here is stalking by government. So
Well said.
that kind of
Yeah,
gives a difference between, just seeing someone in public and following them around and keeping track of them.
well
Gotcha.
said.
Awesome. All right. So, and I mean, awesome is in the just how you described
Mm.
it, not necessarily what it is. Um, okay. So let's get back to the pub crawl, the banished big brother. So, and I'm sorry, I forgot where we left off when we kind of diverged a little bit, but you went to these events, you saw some things that were, alarming, and then what?
So we're put together on the state level working groups. So this is basically local affiliates who have concerns about surveillance in their community can take this toolkit and they can follow some of the steps in the toolkit and it's very flexible according to what the needs of your community might be.
Mhm.
So you can then on the local level do something about this. And then at the state level, we support you. So we do different things like we file Open Records Act requests. And so this landing page is going to be developed into a full-fledged website to where we can put those Open Records Act requests there. And if you want to know what's going on in your community, you can see what's there. But then each community can kind of handle this however they like. There are a lot of different things you can do. So Savannah, which they are a great affiliate anyway, very active and involved,
Mhm.
and they have jumped into this. And so that is one of our local affiliates, our working groups. This is what they're doing in their area, and we're supporting them on the state level. This is going to help bring attention to the project, hopefully. And they have kind of a unique situation. I won't say unique, but they're at a disadvantage, I should say, in
Mhm.
that they can't just go talk to their city council and sign up for that. The city council votes on whether or not they want to hear what you have to say.
Hmm.
So this seems like the ideal place to kind of make a public statement about we don't like this. So we're going to 3 different locations. And you know how they kind of have ghost tours there of we're
Mhm.
going to go look at the spooky stuff. Well, we're going to do a spooky surveillance tour. So as we go to the different locations, we're going to just point out some of the surveillance cameras, and hopefully people will ask questions and then we can tell them more about what we're doing. And we genuinely hope that this is something that other states will want to take on and do as well.
Well, that leads me to a question I had. Have you spoken to anyone in the National Party about sharing
Yeah,
this?
we're trying to get the word out there and trying to get other state parties to take on the project themselves. This toolkit that we have, it's easily transferable. There's one small section in there about a Supreme Court ruling that's unique to Georgia, but
Mhm.
everything else can be used by any state. And we're constantly making it bigger and better. We have templates that we're developing for different kinds of Open Records Act requests. So we have like some for biometric surveillance, some for license plate readers, and so forth. So we're constantly making it better. And yet, if anyone would really like to pick this up and take it on in their state or even at the local level, I'm happy to speak to anyone that would like to do that.
So how do
Have you
people
had
reach
any
you then?
interest?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, have you had any interest from people in other political parties like Greens or that sort of thing?
Well, and that's a huge part of what we talk about in there is forming coalitions with other groups. And this is something that goes across all political spectrums. I don't care if gun rights, criminal justice, abortion, all kinds of different things this can touch on, religious freedom. So, anywhere on the political spectrum, you can gather allies to work with this. And if we get coalitions together, that is going to increase our chances of success. So, yeah, forming coalitions with other political parties and groups is a big part of this too.
Nice.
So a moment ago, you mentioned, people reaching out to you. What's the best way to reach out to you?
Well, you can, if you sign up for on the email, you put in your email address, you can download um, the toolkit,
Mhm.
and you'll get regular emails from us about the activities that are going on. And you can also email me directly at elizabeth.gallimore, Gallimore, at lpgeorgia.com, and I'll be happy to talk to you.
All right. Writing that down so that we can put that in the show notes. And that was Elizabeth.Gallimore, Gallimore at
Uh,
lpgeorgia.com.
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. So we'll get that in the show notes so people can reach out to you. Now, the pub crawl, where does that fit in?
So for the pub crawl, we are going to have like we're going to have masks, but it's going to be obvious that these are not like serious masks.
Mhm.
Uh, we have anti-facial recognition clothing that you could order from our store. It's basically a print that has faces all over it. It's supposed to confuse the facial recognition. I don't know how much longer that's going to be effective though. And also
Right.
we're encouraging people to wear like maybe sandwich board signs that say banishbigbrother.com, just something that gets people to ask questions.
Okay.
And then that will allow us to hand out brochures and talk to more people about the project. Also, a personal project of mine is a documentary that I'm working on about smart cities and technology. And so we hope to have some people there that will be filming for the documentary. And that's another way to bring attention to the project.
Okay. That sounds awesome. And then for people that might want to attend who are not drinkers, um, how do they fit in?
Well, I don't plan to drink when I'm there, and I have volunteered to be a designated driver, and we have a couple of other people that are doing the same. Of
Mhm.
course, you're not required to be one simply because you choose not to drink, but
Mhm.
I think most of the places that we're going to be at are going to offer, non-alcoholic beverages. So yeah, there's no need to feel like you can't participate because you choose not to drink alcohol.
Okay. Well, this definitely sounds neat. The event itself and the drive, not necessarily the reason for it, of course. That's pretty horrifying, and I imagine that we would, like here in Jacksonville and other affiliates in other cities and whatnot, they would probably be alarmed if they found out what their city was doing. So, on that note, what's the first step in finding out what level of kind of surveillance is happening? Because I'm sure that they're not blasting it out and saying, "Oh, by the way, you're being monitored every time you walk down this street." I imagine it's probably surreptitious.
Right. So step one for most communities is going to be an Open Records Act request.
Mhm.
If you can't find someone to just directly answer your questions, then you are going to have to send in an Open Records Act request. They're obligated to respond to it. Now they can charge you for doing that, and that's why we initially had just a huge request that would cover everything. And when we got back, this is going to be $600. When that happened a couple times, we're like, okay, we've got to rethink this. So now
Mhm.
we have it broken down into very small increments. So basically, send us all of the information that you have on license plate readers
Okay.
or smart street lights or biometric surveillance. Uh, so by breaking it down, and we have the templates that we're putting in place. The templates are not actually in the toolkit yet, but we will eventually update the toolkit with that. And we hope to have this information just on the website too, so that you can more easily reference it. And once we start getting some of this information in, we'll have it on the website so that if whatever city you live in, if that information is there, you can just go out there and look and see exactly what the results of those requests are.
Okay.
So, what's the end game after you get the information and make people aware?
Well, so there are different ways that you can take this. You can say, we want transparency. we want you to put this on the city website, what you're doing. You can say, we don't want you using, the cameras are okay, but we don't want you using facial recognition. And there is a precedent for that being rolled back. It was rolled back in San Francisco.
Mhm.
So uh, if you're in a place that doesn't have it yet, then you're in a good place to proactively approach your city council and say, we want regulation on this. We want you to be required to have public buy in on this. In some cases, law enforcement is getting the license plate readers and the surveillance, and city council is not even aware of it.
Mm.
So, in those cases, your city council can say, we are going to put legislation in place that they can't do this without our permission. So each county, each city is going to be different, but all of these different approaches and things that you can do are listed in the toolkit.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, I don't have any further questions. I don't know if Susan does.
No,
Um,
I think I'm
but
good.
Elizabeth, is there anything that we didn't ask or didn't cover that you need to let people know about?
Well, one other thing that I would suggest that you do is to go to either, we have a YouTube, the Libertarian Party of Georgia has a YouTube, Odyssey, or Rumble channel. And
Mhm.
we do have a presentation out there. And we also have a podcast out there as well on the issue. But the presentation goes step by step through, it's about 45 minutes long, all the different kinds of surveillance, the threats that to our civil liberties, different things that you can do. And so that in particular is helpful.
Okay,
That's
I'll make sure to
fantastic.
add
Can you?
that to the show notes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say if you can send the links for those, that would be fantastic.
So
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity to share.
absolutely, and I appreciate you taking the time out to come on and explain all of this. I think that if cities or if libertarians and non-libertarians as well go out and start identifying what is going on in their city, maybe they'll be alarmed, and hopefully that will lead to some action that will start rolling these back or limiting them, or whatever the case may be. So let's push this for all we've got. So let's see. I think I have a question here. It says, "Does City Council not really know?" This is from Tub Rorba. Does Council not really know? And that's actually a very interesting question. Um, if the City Council said they don't know, what's your confidence level in their response?
Well, I think that sometimes in this, it does seem that often they will have one person, kind of like an ally on city council, some of the corporations
Hmm.
that are pushing it. And there might be one or two people who do really know what's going on, but everyone else is in the dark.
Hmm.
But we did have a somewhat of a success recently in one of our affiliates where they were going to put in smart kiosks,
Hmm.
and there was some opposition on the county commission. And when our affiliate members of that particular affiliate went and started addressing them, they really were not aware of all of the capabilities of these
Mm,
kiosks. So, yes, there may be some situations where they know and they're pretending not to know, but in some cases they're just not paying attention.
got it. Okay. All right. Well, we don't have any further questions from the audience, and we don't have any from ourselves. So I just want to thank you for joining us, during this hour and enlightening us. And then I will make sure to get all this information in the show notes so that people can reach out and hopefully get this kicked off in their own state, or maybe even their local affiliate.
All right, thank you so much.
All right. And let's see, Susan, I think you said that you had a hard stop this evening.
I
So
did.
and I don't have anything further. You don't have anything further, correct?
Nope. Nope. We're
All right.
good.
Well, then I will jump to right on to the closing, and this will be a wrap up for this show. Thank you, Susan, for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks again.
All right, folks. We will see you again next week. Remember, this show airs every Sunday night at 7 p.m. If you have something that you want us to talk about, let us know. Reach out to me on Twitter. Sorry, X. Still working on that. You can reach out to Susan. You can email me. There's any number of ways to get a hold of, put it in the show, or I'm sorry, put it in the comments, leave a comment and say, hey, I heard such and such, you know, affiliate is doing this thing. And so just let us know, because we want to elevate and talk about what is happening in the LP. And it doesn't matter what state or what affiliate it is. We want to talk about the good things that are happening, because we know that there are very hard workers out there putting in a lot of energy for the liberty movement. So we want to make sure that we highlight them, and we want to make sure that their work is promoted, not only so that maybe they can get further assistance, but so that those ideas can spread. But anyway, I want to thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Until next time, you can find me you can find old episodes at libertydad.com. You can find the video episodes at youtube.libertydad.com. You can totally email me, very old school, libertydadpodcast@gmail.com, because I would love to hear from you. And you can also send your ideas for the show to affiliates at libertydad.com. I had a little trouble with that last week, but I got it this time. Anyway, remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Catch you next time. And